Hello, and welcome to Soothing Pod's Sleep Stories. I am Michael, and tonight we step into a world of myth and dreams. We follow Pegasus, the winged horse born from sea foam, soaring from ocean to sky, carrying inspiration, courage, and wonder. From Mount Helicon's sacred springs to his eternal place among the stars, his story bridges mortals and gods, adventure and freedom, guiding dreamers across the night. Before we begin our journey tonight, let's take time to relax and let go of the stresses of the day. Allow your body to sink into the mattress beneath you. Here and now, there are no obligations, no to-do lists. By simply lying in bed with your eyes closed, you are already giving your body nourishing rest. Take a moment to arrive here in this quiet space of rest. The day has left its marks upon your body and mind, but now you are free to set them down. Breathe in slowly, letting the air fill your lungs, and release it gently as though you are exhaling a long-held sigh. With every breath, the world outside grows softer and your inner world becomes calm and open. Notice your body resting where it is, supported, safe, and steady. If there is tension, imagine it loosening like knots slowly untied. Your arms grow heavy, your legs sink into stillness, and the rhythm of your breath carries you into peace. Above you, picture a vast twilight sky, painted in soft shades of blue and lavender. A single star appears, then another, until the heavens begin to glow with constellations. Imagine yourself drifting upward toward them, not with effort but with ease, as though you are light as air. Each breath lifts you higher through a gentle sea of clouds that shine with silver edges. In this sky, time slows. You are no longer bound to the noise of the day, only to the serenity of the night. The stars shimmer like lanterns guiding your way, and you feel as though you are stepping into a story older than memory itself. Somewhere in that sky, beyond the reach of ordinary sight, a winged horse waits. His wings gleam like ivory in the starlight, each feather a promise of freedom and wonder. He is Pegasus, born of sea and sky, guardian of dreams, and companion to poets and heroes. Tonight, his story will unfold slowly, carrying you into a world where myth and dream intertwine. Rest here, calm and ready, as the tale begins. Twilight had settled across the ancient world, a quiet hour when day and night touched hands for a brief moment before parting. The air was soft, painted with the last threads of sunlight that shimmered like golden mist across the horizon. In this liminal space, where shadows deepened and stars began their patient glow, the boundaries between the mortal and the divine seemed to loosen, and the old stories came alive. The Greeks called this the sacred hour, when shepherds guided their flocks home. Sailors gazed to the heavens for direction, and poets raised their voices in song. They believed that at dusk the veil between worlds grew thin, allowing whispers of gods and heroes to drift across the earth. It was in this tender stillness that the tale of Pegasus belonged, for Pegasus was no ordinary creature. He was a bridge between the known and the unknown, between the soil of mortals and the skies of immortals. Imagine a vast landscape, its mountains bathed in violet shadow, its rivers reflecting silver light. Above, the constellations begin their nightly watch, their shapes forming patterns that told stories older than time. Among them is the promise of Pegasus, though his place in the heavens has not yet been written. For now, he waits at the edge of myth, soon to burst into being with wings outstretched. The Greeks saw the world not as fixed and silent, but as alive, breathing with gods, monsters, and wonders. In every sea foam crest and every gust of wind, there lay the possibility of magic. And it is from such elements, the ocean's foam and the sky's boundless air, that Pegasus would one day emerge, a creature of beauty and freedom, destined to inspire both awe and dreams. And so, in the quiet unfolding of twilight, on a distant shore, where the waves struck endlessly against black rock, a story of both ending and beginning was written into the foam of the sea. The sea was restless that night, its waves rising and falling, with a rhythm that seemed older than the world itself. Foam crowned the crests of the water, glowing faintly in the light of a waning moon. Along a distant shore of black rock, where no bird sang and no mortal dared to linger, the course of fate was quietly shifting. Here the hero Perseus had faced Medusa, the last of the Gorgons. Though many feared even to speak her name, Perseus, aided by gifts of the gods, had triumphed. Yet in the world of myth, endings often carried within them the seeds of beginnings. The moment her head was severed, something wondrous was set into motion. From the blood that spilled onto the sea foam, mingling with salt water, and the breath of Poseidon, life took shape. The foam swelled higher, bubbling and shimmering as though stirred by an unseen hand. Then with sudden brilliance a figure leapt forth, white as dawn light, radiant as starlight. He rose from the sea with wings unfurled. This was Pegasus, born of the ocean's depths and the sky's infinite expanse. His body was that of a noble horse, yet more radiant, his mane flowing like liquid silver, his feathers gleaming like polished ivory. The poet said that at the very moment of his birth, the air itself seemed to grow lighter, as if Pegasus had brought with him a fragment of heaven. With his first breath, he gave a cry unlike any sound known before. Not a neigh, not the call of a bird, but something in between, a tone that resonated like music carried by the wind. Then, without hesitation, he stretched his vast wings and rose upward. Salt water trailed from his feathers in glittering arcs, falling back to the waves like sparks of light. The Greeks, who loved to weave meaning into every tale, saw in Pegasus's birth the union of opposites. Life springing from death, beauty rising from terror, freedom born out of confinement. They believed he carried the essence of Poseidon, god of the sea, but also the blessing of Zeus, ruler of the skies. For who else but the child of gods could soar so effortlessly between ocean and heaven? For a time, Pegasus flew without destination. He circled high above the shore where Perseus still lingered, before turning his gaze toward the mountains inland. He skimmed the peaks, his shadow falling like a fleeting dream across the valleys below. He startled herds of deer who lifted their heads in wonder before scattering. Shepherds claimed that they once saw him gliding silently through the mist, hooves never touching the grass. A vision too strange to be mistaken for any earthly creature. At rivers and lakes he paused to drink, lowering his head to the water. In the mirrored surface, he saw his own reflection, wings wide, eyes shining like polished amber. Yet no fear lived in him, no confusion at his existence. He was born not to question, but to roam, to embody the boundless motion of wind and wave. The poets told that wherever Pegasus traveled, beauty followed, flowers opened sooner where his hooves touched the ground. Springs bubbled clearer, the air seemed fresher, and even birds fell silent as if to listen to the sound of his wings. He was freedom made flesh, untamed and unconstrained, moving between realms that no other creature could bridge. And yet, Pegasus was not only a wanderer. His birth had marked him with destiny. Though he did not yet know it, he would become the companion of gods, the inspiration of poets, and the guardian of springs that carried the power of creativity itself. His story had only begun, but already the world was shifting to make room for him. As twilight deepened into night, Pegasus lifted himself higher into the heavens. The stars greeted him as though they had been waiting, their light catching on his wings until he seemed to shine with their radiance. He glided in great arcs, savoring the joy of flight. No boundary bound him, no chain could hold him. The sky was his kingdom, the earth his stage, and the sea his cradle. Thus was Pegasus born, not in silence, but in the thunder of waves and the shimmer of starlight. A being of wonder sprung from sea and foam, carrying with him the promise that beauty and freedom might rise even from the darkest of places. In time, he would leave the lonely shores behind and find his way to Mount Helicon, where the muses awaited him. There he would uncover a gift even greater than his wings, a gift that would shape the art and memory of humankind for all the ages to come. After wandering the wide lands beneath the sky, Pegasus found himself drawn to a mountain unlike any other. Its slopes rose with serene majesty, cloaked in pines and oaks that whispered in the wind, and its summit shimmered with a soft light as though it had been touched by the gods. This was Mount Helicon, a place sacred to the 9 muses, daughters of Zeus and Mnemosyne, goddesses of memory and inspiration. The Greeks believed that the muses were the gentle voices that stirred within every poet, painter, and musician when a singer lifted a song to the stars. It was the muse who breathed the words into his heart. When a sculptor carved stone into living beauty, it was the muse who guided his hand. Mount Helicon, lush and blooming, was their favored dwelling, for it was said the mountain itself thrummed with creative energy. Pegasus approached the mountain not as a creature seeking worship, but as one guided by instinct. His hooves pressed against the earth, and with every step it seemed the land responded, grass bending as though in reverence. When he reached a plateau near the summit, the air shimmered around him. The muses had seen his flight from afar, and now they gathered. 9 sisters, radiant in flowing robes, their eyes filled with both wonder and welcome. It was here, upon Helicon's slopes, that Pegasus revealed a gift the world had never known. Lifting one shining hoof, he struck the ground with sudden force. The earth shuddered, then split, and from the wound of stone there burst a spring of crystalline water. It leapt into the air before tumbling back to earth, a fountain so pure and bright it seemed to carry the very essence of the heavens. This was Hippocrene, the horse's fountain, a sacred spring whose waters would forever be linked to inspiration. The muses approached, their laughter like gentle bells as they knelt beside the fountain. They cupped their hands to drink, and at once their voices swelled with new strength. The songs they sang were more luminous than before, carrying the power to stir hearts across generations. They blessed the spring, declaring it a place where poets and dreamers might come to drink, not with lips but with spirit, and find their souls awakened with creativity. From that day forward, Hippocrene became a holy place to all people who sought beauty in word or song. Travelers would climb Mount Helicon in hope of gazing upon its waters, believing even the sight of the spring could fill them with vision. And always, behind the story, stood Pegasus, the winged steed who bridged mortal and divine, who gave freely of his gift without asking anything in return. The poets spoke of him with reverence. Hesiod, one of the earliest singers of Greece, imagined Pegasus's strike as the spark that birthed the muses' eternal power. Later storytellers said that each time Pegasus's hooves touched stone, another spring would rise, for his steps carried the memory of creation itself. The image of Pegasus at Helicon lingered in the imagination of the Greeks as a symbol of the way inspiration descends. Just as Pegasus's wings carried him between earth and sky, so too does inspiration lift the human soul, giving it flight. A poet might feel his mind heavy with silence, but when the muse descended, his words would leap forth as though a spring had burst open inside him. That was the miracle of Hippocrene, and Pegasus was forever its guardian. On quiet evenings when the mountain lay bathed in moonlight, the muses could still be heard singing by the waters, their voices rising and falling like waves. And often, if one listened closely, the sound of wings would echo above. Pegasus circling in the starlight, watching over the sacred spring he had given the world. In time, mortals would tell many tales of Pegasus, stories of his bond with heroes and his place among the stars. Yet to the muses, he would always be more than legend. He was their companion in creation, the bringer of water, and that flowed not merely across the earth, but into the hearts of all people who long to dream. In the quiet years that followed his birth, Pegasus roamed freely across mountains and valleys, rivers and skies. He was beloved of the muses and honored by poets, yet he belonged to no mortal hand. Few even dared to imagine such a creature could be tamed, for he was the very image of freedom, wild and untouchable. But fate, which threads together the lives of mortals and immortals alike, soon wove Pegasus into the story of a man named Bellerophon. Bellerophon was a prince of Corinth, a man gifted with beauty and courage, but also burdened with restless ambition. He dreamed not merely of living nobly, but of accomplishing deeds so great they would outlast the memory of his own lifetime. Tales of Pegasus had reached him, of a horse with wings like snow, swift as the wind, who could carry a rider beyond the limits of mortal men. And so Bellerophon's heart became set upon claiming Pegasus as his companion. Yet desire alone could not bring him near. Each time Bellerophon sought Pegasus, the winged horse rose into the sky, untouchable, leaving the prince staring upward in longing. Days turned to weeks, and Bellerophon despaired, believing Pegasus would forever elude him. One night, weary and sorrowful, he lay down to sleep at the altar of Athena, goddess of wisdom and protector of heroes. In his dreams she came to him, radiant and calm, her eyes filled with the light of hidden knowledge. In her hands she carried a golden bridle, its metal gleaming like sunlight on still water. She spoke softly. Only through trust and reverence will Pegasus come to you. Take this bridle, and with it offer not command but companionship. When Bellerophon awoke, the bridle lay upon the altar, shining as it had in his dream. He knew then that the gods had favored his quest. The next morning, he found Pegasus grazing in a meadow, the wings of the horse catching dawn's light so brightly it seemed the air itself glowed. Slowly, carefully, Bellerophon approached. This time, Pegasus did not flee. Perhaps it was the presence of the bridle, or perhaps it was the calm that had entered Bellerophon's heart after Athena's vision. He extended his hand, and Pegasus regarded him with amber eyes that seemed to hold both storm and sunlight. For a long moment, the world was silent. Then Pegasus lowered his head, allowing the bridle to slip into place. Thus began one of the most legendary bonds in Greek myth, the union of man and winged horse. Together, they accomplished feats that astonished the world. The most famous was the slaying of the Chimera, a monstrous beast with the body of a lion, the head of a goat rising from its back, and the tail of a serpent. Fire poured from its mouth, and no warrior had survived its fury. But Pegasus gave Bellerophon the gift of the skies. As the chimera roared and struck, Pegasus soared beyond its reach, wings lifting them higher than the flames could touch. From above, Bellerophon loosed his arrows, striking the monster until it fell. The people sang of this victory for generations, praising the courage of the hero and the swiftness of the divine steed who bore him. Their bond did not end there. Pegasus carried Bellerophon against the Solimi, fierce warriors who fell before the hero's might, and against the Amazons, whose strength was unmatched on earth. Always Pegasus was steadfast, his wings carrying his rider. No mortal could have gone alone. The Greeks saw in their partnership a lesson that even the most wondrous gifts of the gods could be guided by mortal hands, but only with respect and humility. Pegasus did not serve Bellerophon out of fear or force, but through trust, the rare bond between the untamed and the determined. For a time, their glory seemed without end. Songs were sung not only of the hero, but of the shining horse at his side. Children dreamed of Pegasus as much as they dreamed of becoming heroes themselves. And on the fields of battle, men swore they had seen him soaring above, mane gleaming like fire, wings spreading wide, as though to cover the earth with light. Yet as with many tales of mortals and the divine, the story of Pegasus and Bellerophon carried within it both triumph and shadow. For though Pegasus remained ever noble, the heart of man is vulnerable to pride, and in time, Bellerophon's ambition would reach too high, leading him toward a fall the gods themselves would not ignore. But for now, the image lingers. Pegasus soaring over mountains and valleys, Bellerophon upon his back, the two moving as one. Mortal and immortal, bound not by chains but by trust, they seemed unstoppable, carried together on wings that touched both heaven and earth. For many moons, Bellerophon and Pegasus traveled together, their feats echoing across valleys, mountains, and seas. From above, the world seemed small and malleable beneath the sweep of wings. And from the heights, Bellerophon's heart swelled with both wonder and confidence. He felt the thrill of mastery, the joy of partnership, and the intoxicating sense that nothing on earth could withstand him. Yet, as is often the way with mortal hearts, admiration for one's own power can grow too easily into pride. Bellerophon began to imagine that if he could conquer beasts and enemies alike, then why should he not approach the very throne of the gods themselves? He looked upward to Olympus, where Zeus and the immortals dwelled, and thought that perhaps he deserved a place among them. Pegasus, ever noble and discerning, sensed the shift. The bond between horse and rider was not built on command, but on trust, humility, and respect. He had carried Bellerophon safely through dangers no mortal could survive, yet wings alone could not guard against the recklessness of human ambition. The hero, however, would not be dissuaded. One morning, as the mist still lingered over the mountains, Bellerophon urged Pegasus to take flight once more. Higher and higher they rose, the clouds parting as if in awe of the sight. A horse and rider gliding between sky and sun, shadows stretching across the earth below. Bellerophon's heart thrummed with exhilaration, each beat declaring, "I am unstoppable." "Higher," he whispered, a fervor in his voice that Pegasus had not heard before. The wind tugged at the horse's wings, yet he obeyed, for he had borne the hero faithfully through storms and battles alike. Together, they climbed beyond the mountains, past the clouds, until Olympus itself seemed within reach. It was then that Zeus, ever watchful of mortal presumption, decided the lesson must be taught. From the heavens, a divine gadfly was sent, buzzing fiercely against Pegasus's flanks. Startled and stung, Pegasus leaped aside with sudden force. The bond between rider and steed wavered under the shock, and in that moment, Bellerophon, grasping for control, found himself unmoored from the wings that had carried him so far. He fell down through cloud and wind. The hero tumbled toward the earth. His pride could not save him, nor his courage, nor his skill. But Pegasus, though still hurt by the sudden sting, rose higher, wings beating strong and unbroken. The sky, which had seemed infinite, now stretched above him, as a reminder that freedom is both gift and responsibility. Bellerophon survived, though his spirit was humbled, left to wander the earth alone, a mortal touched by the consequences of reaching too high. Yet Pegasus did not fall with him. He continued his ascent, carried by the heavens themselves, untarnished, luminous, and eternal. Zeus, in his wisdom, welcomed Pegasus into the company of the gods. There he would serve as a mount for thunderbolts, a companion to heroes, and a symbol of inspiration that no mortal folly could diminish. Though he had once walked the earth with a man who overreached, his spirit remained unbound. Pegasus embodied what it meant to move between realms, a being capable of greatness, yet aware of its own limits, guided by instinct, wisdom, and grace. The Greeks told this story not as a warning against aspiration, but as a testament to the delicate balance between mortal ambition and divine freedom. Pegasus, they said, is a reminder that even the most dazzling power can coexist with humility, that the sky is vast enough for dreams, but only if one respects the boundaries of what is eternal. Even now, when the night sky is clear and the stars shimmer with quiet light, one can imagine Pegasus soaring above the earth. Wings spread wide, he glides across the heavens, carrying the echoes of heroism and the lessons of pride. He reminds those who watch the night, freedom is precious, trust is sacred, and some flights are meant not for conquest but for wonder. So Pegasus continues, eternal and untamed, a guardian of the skies, a muse for dreamers, and a creature whose story bridges the mortal and the divine. When the mortal world could no longer contain him, Pegasus rose higher than ever before, wings stretching wide against the limitless sky. Mountains became valleys far below, rivers turned to silver threads, and forests dwindled to quiet patterns on the earth. He soared beyond the reach of human ambition, gliding through the soft, endless blue of heaven, where clouds drifted like whispers of forgotten stories. Zeus, watching from his throne on Olympus, recognized the nobility of Pegasus. Unlike mortal men, whose hearts could falter in pride or fear, Pegasus had remained true to his nature, free, graceful, and steadfast. To honor him, Zeus lifted the winged horse into the stars, giving him a place among the constellations. There Pegasus would live forever, his wings spread wide in eternal flight, a guide and a symbol for dreamers across the ages. The constellation of Pegasus came to be known as the Great Square, a formation of stars that marked the passage of night across the heavens. Ancient sailors, gazing out over oceans, learned to navigate by the light of these stars, trusting Pegasus to guide them safely. Poets and storytellers traced his outline in the sky, weaving his image into song and memory, and in so doing, carried his legend to generations yet unborn. Even in the night sky, Pegasus seemed to move, though fixed among the stars. His spirit was as alive as when he first leapt from the sea foam. His wings appeared to shimmer against the velvet of night, each feather catching starlight like fragments of the moon. To the Greeks, he was not merely a constellation, but a presence, a reminder that beauty and freedom could exist beyond the limits of earthbound life. Those who dreamed of flight imagined themselves riding alongside him, feeling the lift of the wind and the thrill of soaring among the stars. Writers, musicians, and artists found their inspiration renewed when they thought of Pegasus, whose birth had been born of death and whose life bridged worlds. In every creation touched by his myth, Pegasus lived again, carrying the echo of his wings across time and imagination. Legends say that if one listens closely on a still night, the sound of wings can be heard above, gentle yet powerful, sweeping across the heavens. It is Pegasus, still flying, still guarding the flow of dreams, still guiding the hearts of those who long to reach beyond themselves. Thus, Pegasus became eternal, not merely a creature of myth, but a symbol of the boundless possibilities that lie in freedom, courage, and wonder. His story, from the foaming birth at the edge of the sea, through the inspiration of the muses, the companionship of Bellerophon, and the lesson of mortal pride, culminates in the silent, enduring sky. Every night, as the stars appear and the world grows still, Pegasus watches from above, and though he is distant, untouchable by mortal hands, he is near in imagination and spirit, a reminder that the sky is vast, dreams are boundless, and the heart of legend carries on forever, on wings of light and the promise of flight. I hope you enjoyed tonight's journey and it has brought you a night of peaceful, restful sleep. Please join me again tomorrow night for another sleep story. Until then, sweet dreams